All right, we're going to do a little impromptu video. It is the first, or towards the 1st of July. It's actually July 8th. I've done some videos on AC work and it's kind of time sensitive. So I want to talk to you guys about and get your feedback. I know what works for me with AC. I've had a lot of your comments come back to me and I'm like, all right, maybe we're not on the same boat with air conditioning work, as well as I've learned some things as well. So it's not one-sided. This is one of my tech's refrigerant identifiers, or sniffers, if you will. I don't know what model this is, but he's had very good luck with this. He did a lot of review reading on this before he went into it. TechMate, I guess, is the brand of this one. It's been a really good source. And there's been a lot of controversy in the comments section, which is great. I'll take the good with the bad, about dyes, refrigerant dyes. Now I have two different dyes here. This one says 134A. This has been a BG refrigerant dye and synthetic oil additive I've used for a couple of decades. Very good stuff. This one here will actually do both. There's a glare there. But it says 134A and 1234YF. Now, I'm going to talk about this one here in a minute, but this is its own thing. A lot of you in the comments have dogged on sniffers big time, and I totally understand why. And to be honest, for about 20 years, I was 100% on board that really the only way that I found a leak with AC was with refrigerant dye or soapy water. Now, both of those are good options, but I've also had both of those lead me down a path that didn't find the leak. As well as probably 6 years ago, I could buy 134A refrigerant and put dye in it and run it, and it really wasn't a lot of money that you lost. Well, now what that same refrigerant cost 5 and 6 years ago, it's 3 times as much money. Now, some of you out there at the shop may not care. Oh, that's the customer's paying for that, or the shop's paying for that. Somebody's got to pay for it. So how about we find the leak without just charging it with dye and sending it out, letting all the refrigerant go to the atmosphere, and we actually find it, hopefully same day, get that customer fixed and get them back out there rolling cool. Now, this one, the reason I have a different one here is this will, like I said, do 134A, but it'll also do 1234YF. And if you're driving a car 2016 and newer, definitely 2019 and newer, you're running the 1234YF refrigerant, okay? That refrigerant is very expensive. I'd have to do the comparison, but I bet it's, 10 times as expensive. So if you have a 1234YF leak, it's not cost effective just to throw dye in there and then let them go and then find it a week, a month, 2 months later and have to charge them again, or the shop eats the cost. That's really where a lot of this discussion on refrigerant identifiers and finding leaks has come from. Now, I will tell you, there's been a couple of you down in the comments, I can definitely tell we're on the same page, or you're a true HVAC person, and I need to look into it. Initially, we did the Snap-on versus Icon comparison for the sniffers. Some of you guys put me on to a company that'll do parts per million. It's a much more robust, I think it was about $1,200 to $1,500 for the sniffer. I'm looking to give the customer the quickest and most accurate answer, and I don't really care how we get there, okay? So let me know what you guys think. If you're only working on 134A, you haven't come into this situation where you can't just charge it and let it go, because you're going to spend $1,000 waste of either the shop's money or the customer's money trying to find a leak with just dye. Am I going to keep using dye? Absolutely. Am I going to use any resource that I can come up with? Absolutely. Now, we're about 5 minutes in here. I want to talk about this for a minute. There's a lot of you DIY people out there buying this setup or a variation. The can may look different, I don't care. They make it user-friendly with a gauge and a trigger and the whole deal on here, but any of you that are buying these, almost all of them come with a stop leak or sealer. You cannot put that in your AC system. Well, let me rephrase that. People do put it in there and it ruins your AC system. And then when you come see somebody like me and you suck that sealer into your machine, because that's part of an AC service, for me to do any work on it, I've got to evacuate the system, pull it out and hold it. Sometimes I measure the weight or the amount. When I get that sealer in my machine, now my machine orifices are clogged up and I got to spend probably $3,500 fixing that. And there's really no way to flush that out of your car. So once you make this mistake and you buy the one that is not pure refrigerant and it stops up your AC system, the game is now over. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. Don't do that. And right now, every parts store and big box store I go into, this is sitting at the end cap and they're peddling it just to everybody that wants to try and save a buck. And I get saving a buck, but this absolutely does not do that for you. So don't buy it. If you are going to try and do it yourself, there are little small squatty cans with a little can tap or a fitting that goes on the top, and it needs to be pure refrigerant, 134A or 1234YF. But here's the next part of this. If it's low on refrigerant, there's a leak, and you're going to keep throwing good money after bad, as well as the way and the reason dye works is because a little bit of the dye is riding on the movement of the refrigerant. And you can argue that in the comments if you want, but if that wasn't the case, there wouldn't be an oil container that you catch the oil that comes out when you evacuate the system that you have to empty so often. As well as dye, as it moves through the system, wherever the refrigerant is moving out of or leaking, it carries a little bit of the dye and the oil out. So if you keep charging a system that's low with a leak, eventually it runs out of oil and then it self-destructs and it vomits metal fragments or desiccant throughout the whole system. Mainly metal fragments, but it can rupture the desiccant if it gets bad enough. It'll run low on oil and you're just creating more work than if you just get it in, figure out where the leak is, and whether you use the sniffer, the dye, soapy water, I don't care how I get the right answer. I just want to get the right answer. So this is my take on some of the thoughts on air conditioning work. I'd love to know what you guys are doing. Some of you are probably charging with nitrogen and doing some different things there. I'm looking into that. I'm going to look into the parts per million sniffers out there. Obviously, I'm a fan of the dye, so if dye is the only way to go, and I'm trying to do a public service announcement to stop using this garbage in your AC system. So what happens if you've already done this? The actual fix is whatever this touched, we unbolt off the car, we throw in the recycling bin, and we buy new parts and put on there. I'm talking lines, I'm talking condenser, evaporator, compressor, orifice tube, expansion valve, receiver dryer, whatever the case may be. That's what you guarantee those parts are failed at this point. So don't be that guy, don't be that lady. You know, make sure that if the system is starting to not work as good as it used to, don't run it any longer than you have to, because if it's running low on refrigerant, it's probably running low on some kind of an oil. What sold me on this particular oil is early in my career, probably about 18 years ago, we started using BG products. And we had just put an engine for a customer in a Chevy S10 Blazer. I'll never forget it. Now, it didn't run when it got to us, so we had no idea. And we had that's an expensive repair, so we didn't want to have to go back to them and spend any more money. We started the system up and the compressor was just clang, clang, clang. I mean, it was noisy, bad. And so we put 2 ounces. This is a 8-ounce container. We put 2 ounces of this, which is basically that much. So from the top to there. and you physically heard the compressor quiet down. Now, I have serviced that vehicle until they passed it down to one of their grandkids, I think. And I did have to put an AC system on it, but this oil got them several more seasons of use out of it before the compressor finally gave up. And I absolutely know, had we not had a good synthetic quality oil in there to breathe a little life back into that compressor, it would have self-destructed and we'd have been done. So, very big fan of dye. Just because I use the Sniffers doesn't mean that I don't think that the dye is valuable, but I don't want to have my blinders on to where I'm not looking for other ways to get the right answer. So if you're out there and your AC system's not working, get it in sooner than later. It will save you money. If you run it to the end or you put some garbage in there like this, you're going to spend the big bucks. I'm very interested to hear about the comments and what you guys think about this video.